Hello, Dragons, and welcome to this instructional video for Lesson 8, Part 1, The Members of Congress. The main idea behind this civics lesson is members of the Senate and the House of Representatives, the two houses of Congress, share the responsibility of balancing the needs of constituents with those of the nation. With that in mind, by the end of watching this video, you'll be able to describe the groups to which a member of Congress is responsible, explain the duties of a member of Congress, compare the jobs of a representative and a senator, and summarize the requirements for being a member of Congress and the salary and benefits. Now that the outcomes for this lesson have been shared with you, let's get started. Congress is the legislative or lawmaking branch of the national government. It is made up of two houses, the Senate and the House of Representatives. The most important job of Congress is to make laws. Laws do not simply state what you can and cannot do. A law can establish a national policy, a plan of action designed to achieve a certain goal. Laws, for example, spell out how the government raises and spends its money. They protect the environment and provide money for school lunches. Laws can also determine how much workers are paid. We are often faced with important decisions in our lives. Can you remember a time when you had to make a decision? Your parents wanted you to decide one way, your friends wanted you to decide a different way, and you were caught in the middle trying to make up your mind what to do. This is the kind of situation members of Congress face every day. A member has responsibilities to different groups of people. Often these groups make different demands. Lawmaking involves balancing many responsibilities and handling conflicting pressures. Each member of Congress represents a group of citizens much smaller than the nation. One of a member's major responsibilities is to his or her constituents, the people he or she represents. Constituents expect senators and representatives to listen to their ideas about problems and issues and to be their voice in Congress. In addition, a member of Congress has a responsibility to the whole nation. The laws Congress makes often affect all Americans. Sometimes the needs of a member's constituents are in conflict with the needs of Americans in general. For example, a representative from a wheat-growing region may have to vote on a law that would please local wheat farmers, but would anger the nation's consumers by raising the price of bread. A member of Congress also has a responsibility to his or her political party. A party is an organization of people who share certain ideas about what government should do. Most members of Congress today belong to either the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. Each party works to elect its candidates to Congress. In return, the party expects its members to support the party's position on an issue before Congress. This responsibility may present a member of Congress with a difficult choice. The senator who receives a letter about a bill or proposed law to increase the minimum wage is pressured from two sides. As a Republican, the senator feels he should follow his party's position and oppose the bill. However, most of the letters he had received from constituents were in support of the bill. A member of Congress may well want to run for re-election when his or her term of office ends. For this reason, members try to gain support and raise money for campaigns. They often get help from interest groups, groups of people who work together for similar interests or goals. Interest groups can supply both votes and money. Examples of well-known interest groups are the American Medical Association, the American Farm Bureau, and the National Rifle Association. An interest group works to convince senators and representatives to support bills that help its members and to oppose bills that hurt them. This is done by hiring lobbyists, people who represent interest groups. For example, hotel and motel owners formed one interest group that opposed the minimum wage bill. They argued that it would increase their costs by forcing them to pay their workers more. Their lobbyists tried to convince members of Congress to oppose the bill. Often a member of Congress supports the goals of a particular interest group. In return, that group encourages its members to vote for him or her in the next election. A member of Congress votes on hundreds of bills every year. Each vote represents a decision the member must make. He or she must weigh conflicting information and arguments presented by constituents, fellow party members, and lobbyists. A member must also search his or her own conscience and values. Predicting what the result of a bill will be in the long run can be difficult, but the member must consider that too. All of these factors are part of the responsibilities of lawmaking. In addition to being a lawmaker, a member of Congress plays a second important role as servant of the people. In this role, a member gives information and help to individual constituents who have special needs or problems. The owner of a small business, for example, may want to know the latest government rules that apply to her business. Many members of Congress place a great deal of emphasis on this role because it helps a member's constituents directly and makes them more likely to vote for him or her for re-election. In 1899, one senator reportedly joked, "God made a day 24 hours long for the ordinary man. After a man becomes a United States senator, he requires a day 48 hours long." These words still ring true for senators as well as for representatives. Although they work hard, it is almost impossible for them to do all that is required of them. Members of Congress spend a great deal of time learning about the issues on which they must vote. For example, members need to know about issues ranging from American military operations and trade with other nations to pollution of coastal waters and health care coverage for people with disabilities. Members of Congress try to be present on the floor of the House or Senate chamber as much as possible. There, they listen to and give speeches and vote on bills. Every day, members of Congress go to meetings. Every day, dozens of people compete for their time. A fellow member with questions about a bill, a lobbyist with arguments against one, a constituent visiting the Capitol. Between meetings, members prepare bills, study reports, and read many letters from constituents. Members of Congress rely heavily on their personal staffs, about 12,000 workers who help them do their jobs. Administrative assistants run a member's offices in his or her home state and in Washington, D.C. Legislative assistants study bills. Caseworkers handle requests from constituents. Members and their staffs try to make their local offices a link between citizens and the government. Some local offices, for example, set up regular neighborhood meetings so that people can talk about issues that concern them. These opinions will be taken into account when bills are proposed and voted upon. You read in Lesson 6 that the House of Representatives is elected on the basis of population. The Constitution requires a census, an official count of the population made every 10 years, to find out how many representatives each state should have. Then Congress gives each state a fair proportion of the 435 seats in the House of Representatives. For example, the 2020 census determined that California, with the biggest population, should have 52 representatives. Vermont and Wyoming, with very small populations, have only one representative each. States can gain or lose representatives after each census, but each state must have at least one representative. The area that a member of the House represents is called a congressional district. Each state is divided into as many congressional districts as it has representatives in the House. By law, all congressional districts must have about the same number of people. Today, districts contain about 770,000 people. The process of drawing district boundaries, which is controlled by state governments, can lead to controversy. Sometimes certain areas in a state have greater percentages of voters from one political party. Then districts can be created to favor one party over another. This practice is called gerrymandering. For example, if the Democratic Party controls the state legislature, it can draw boundaries in such a way that Democrats will be in the majority in most of the state's districts. This is a strategy that might be used to make sure that a majority of representatives from the state will be Democrats. Representatives serve for 2 years. All 435 representatives end their term of office on January 3rd every 2 years. They must run for re-election or retire. There is no limit to the number of times a representative can be re-elected. When vacancies occur in the House, either through death, resignation, or expulsion, which is being removed from Congress for wrongdoing, a special election will occur to fill the seat until the next election. If they wish to stay in office for more than 2 years, representatives must constantly work to earn the approval of the people in their districts. For this reason, a typical representative spends more than 1/4 of his or her time working for constituents, writing letters, receiving visitors, and doing casework. In the Senate, each state is represented by 2 senators. Thus, a senator pays attention to the interests of the state as a whole, not just one district. For example, a representative from a congressional district in central Illinois will be very interested in farm policies because most of the constituents grow crops and raise livestock. A senator from Illinois, in contrast, is concerned not only with farming, but also with all other parts of the state's economy, including manufacturing, banking, mining, and shipping. Senators are elected for terms of 6 years. 1/3 of the senators are elected every 2 years. Unlike the terms of representatives, the terms of senators overlap. As a result, at any one time, there are a number of experienced senators in the Senate. The framers of the Constitution hoped that longer, overlapping terms would make senators less sensitive to the shifting moods of the people than representatives, who face re-election every 2 years. As a more stable body, the Senate was expected to prevent quick, unwise changes in the law. When vacancies occur in the Senate, either through death, resignation, or expulsion, the governor of the state will appoint a senator who will serve until the next election. The requirements for being a senator or a representative are similar. Senators and representatives must live in the states in which they are elected. Representatives must be at least 25 years old, and senators must be at least 30 years old. A representative must have been a citizen of the United States for at least 7 years, but a senator must have been a citizen for at least 9 years. A member of Congress receives an annual salary of $174,000. In addition, a member receives benefits to help him or her do the job. For example, a member can have 2 offices, one in Washington, D.C., and one in his or her congressional district or state. A member receives allowances for running both offices and paying staff salaries, as well as money to travel home to meet with constituents. Members also have the franking privilege, free use of the postal service to send mail, such as newsletters, to constituents. So there you have it with Lesson 8, Part 1, the Members of Congress. At this point, you should know that Article 1 of the Constitution gives Congress the power to make laws. Lawmakers are influenced by several factors, each with competing ideas and values. And senators and representatives both have unique roles and responsibilities, as outlined by the Constitution. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel to have the entire catalog of civics videos available at your fingertips. Click the subscribe button and then click the follow bell to receive notifications as to when the channel is updated. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in class, Dragons. See ya!